His Excellency Nana Annoh-Dompreh Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic, His Royal Majesty Otumfuo II Asantehene and Chancellor of this great university, Her Ladyship Gertrude Araba Isaba Sakitokonu, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, accompanied by the most romantic spouse in the country, Mr. Francis Toko. Since the Chief Justice wants peace at home, we support her in that cause. Honorable Joseph Oseusu, Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana, my Lords Justices of the Supreme Court and other superior courts of judicature, the Right Honorable Godfred Yeboah Dame, Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Ministers of State, Honorable Simon Osei-Mensah, Ashanti Regional Minister, Honorable Afretia Yeboah, Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Honorable Diana Asunaba Dapatrefo, Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Professor Rita Akusia-Dixon, Vice Chancellor, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Ellis Dabo, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Honorable Sam Pine, Mayor of Kumasi and other MMDCs, Nananom, Nana Jakume Difie Mamponhima and other Queen Mothers, members of the National Executive Committee and General Council of the Bar, leather friends, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. One does not need to have the foresight of a Hebrew prophet to know that this is my valedictory conference address. If there ever was a fairy tale ending to a story of a journey of the Bar leadership, it certainly would be mine. For it was in this city of my birth, the Jerusalem of the Republic of Ghana, and at this same venue in September 2015, that I addressed conference for the first time in my capacity as Ashanti Regional President, and delivered a welcome address for conference that, without intending to sound boastful, is generally considered to be the best ever. The memories of that conference have lived with members who were present forever. Today, I deliver my final address to conference as National President in the same city and at the same venue. And I can only say thank you to the good Lord for how far He has brought me. Unfolding before your very eyes, my levels don't change. Let me take this earliest opportunity to say Akwaba and warm welcome to all you distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen to the beautiful city of Kumasi, the proud host city of this year's Bar Conference. And we know that by the time we say Nantiye, you forever remember this week. As far as welcomes are concerned, I must mention His Excellency the President of the Republic in a very special way. He was the first Attorney General under the Fourth Republic to attend the whole session of the Ghana Bar Association Conference. He was the first Attorney General to pay for state attorneys to attend conferences, a welcome practice which has persisted to this day. As Foreign Minister, he attended the opening ceremony of every Bar Conference. As his party's flag bearer, he again attended the opening ceremony of every Bar Conference. On assumption of the high office of President of the Republic, he has attended the opening ceremony of every Bar Conference, and today he makes his 8th appearance. His Excellency, the GBA is suggesting to you that it is possible for you to personally break your 8, so that when you complete your constitutionally mandated term as President of the Republic and retire from high office, you'll still be attending Bar Conferences for as long as the good Lord allows you. Mr. President, the GBA assures you of its utmost gratitude for your unflinching commitment to our values, interests, and our cause. Otumfuo Asantehene is onto a title to a special welcome. On 26 April 1999, Otumfuo was installed as the 16th Asantehene. It came to pass that a few months into his reign, the GBA annual conference was held in Kumasi from Sunday 26 September 1999 to Thursday 30th September 1999. Otumfuo accepted the invitation as a special guest of honor, and as usual, delivered a riveting speech at the opening ceremony on Monday, 27 September 1999. Of all the qualities lawyers are known for, it could be said that clairvoyance is not one of them. However, the GBA leaders at the time must certainly be clairvoyant when they conferred an honorary membership of the Ghana Bar Association under Asantehene, and the reign of the Asantehene has been nothing short of spectacular. In 2008, the Asantehene honored the GBA and hosted a store black tie dinner at Menchia Palace. He repeated it in 2015. It has now become the main attraction for conferences held in Kumasi. This evening, the Asantehene once again hosts another black tie dinner. Unfortunately, because of our numbers, only 700 of us have been invited to attend the event. We can safely say that the Asantehene has discharged all his obligations to the GBA. He has fully paid in kind his brother-in-law Cutlass, Akontasekan. We deem it a blessing and very significant that in the Silver Jubilee year, that Asantehene has found time to be us. That makes us special. That Asantehene is definitely one of us. Otumfuo, Yedawase. I wish to also express my profound gratitude to the indefatigable members of the Council of the Ghana Bar Association, the executives of the Ashanti Regional Bar Association, and others who have tirelessly assisted and cooperate to make this year's conference a reality and hopefully a success. I also deem it fit and needful to specially acknowledge and thank the Vice Chancellor and Council of this great university for opening their doors to us and putting their facilities at our disposal at this conference. We are grateful. So, we are happy to be back to Kumasi. Our special gratitude goes to the traditional municipal authorities and indeed to the good people in Kumasi for hosting us. I've overheard a lot of residents say in my rounds, lawyer for Wukro. This should not be surprising, as there is no place in Ghana that has a history of the struggle for civil liberties than Kumasi. Amadou Baba, Mohamed Ladan, Boafo Akoto, who are known to every student of constitutional law, were all residents of Ashanti Town. It is therefore not surprising that our own Nana Eje Boafo has agreed to sponsor a trip to Menchia South for interested members to visit the homes of Amadou Baba, Mohamed Ladan, and Boafo Akoto. This year's conference is on the theme, I remember mine, not the secretary forgot his. Peaceful, free, fair, and transparent elections, the key to sustainable democracy. Clap for me that I remembered much. The choice of this theme could not have been accidental. For a nation and its people that are preparing for another general elections in about 89 days from today, I believe that the theme of the conference is very appropriate and comes at an opportune time. There are undoubted backgrounds and antecedents to what it is to come in December that serve as good basis for retrospection and perspectives within our unique recent history. Ghana last year celebrated 30 years of constitutional rule under the 1992 Constitution, with a precursor to that observation of 7th January as a public holiday since 2019. It is instructive to acknowledge that the 1992 Constitution is the fourth one in the history of Ghana since our independence in 1957. Since the inception of the 1922 Constitution, Ghana has gone on to enjoy undoubtedly its longest uninterrupted constitutional rule, surpassing the 6 years uninterrupted rule under the 1960 Republican Constitution. The establishment of constitutional rule in Ghana under the aegis of the Constitution, following its approval in a referendum in April 1992, did not come on a silver platter. Its antecedents do not only reveal sacrifices and struggles by the citizenry and civil society organizations but were tumultuous, bloody, and despondent. Constitutional rule and democracy under the Constitution have guaranteed the right of Ghanaians to vote and be voted for under Article 42 of the Constitution. That has immeasurably and undoubtedly ensured an enhanced participatory democracy in Ghana in the last 3 decades. Ghana has so far had 8 different general elections since 1992. A 9th one is under 3 months away. It is not in doubt that the stakes are even higher, and that is expressed in some of the public commentaries of leading figures of the 2 main political parties in this country, some of which have been most inappropriate and irresponsible. These pronouncements have been met with the fitting criticisms and condemnation, and the justifications or attempted rationalization by their proponents and underlings have been unconvincing, to say the least. Inherent in those criticisms and commendations is a realization that such utterances and political rhetoric are incendiary that could stoke needless agitations, unrest and conflicts that could ultimately destabilize our democratic gains and electoral processes. Our political leaders and their hirelings, who appear on campaign platforms and in the media, are called upon to be measured and circumspect in their utterances and actions so as not to hurt and jeopardize our peace, progress, and stability. The importance, utility, and opportunities of democratic rule, with all these incidents, including regular national elections under the Constitution, cannot be overemphasized. I am not saying all has been lofty and smooth sailing, but it has at least given Ghana some relative peace and political stability. We dare not take this for granted. Let us spare a moment to look around us, even in the sub-region. It is said that Ghana is an oasis of peace in a rather troubled and turbulent sub-region. Most of the countries in West Africa and around have tasted and have been involved in one form or the other of military adventurisms in the last few years. For the fact that there has been uninterrupted and sustained political stability in the last 30 years without any military intervention or coup, showing democratic consolidation never seen in the history of Ghana post-independence, is a testament to the path of constitutional rule we have chosen as a people. Recently, a professor with a think tank in Accra posited rather disturbingly that Ghana's democracy is under threat if some stated concerns of the pending elections turn violent are not addressed. He had also alleged that the Ghana Armed Forces were ready to intervene should the elections in the country turn violent beyond the control of the Ghana Police Service. A rather swift rejoinder by the Ghana Armed Forces through his head of public relations, Brigadier General Agrikwashi, saying that the Ghana Armed Forces had no intention to stage a coup and would even prevent and resist any individual, group or organization seeking to take over unlawfully the power of government, either acting alone or in collaboration with any security agency, was most reassuring and commendable. That statement from the Ghana Armed Forces was only consistent with the duty of all of us to respect and protect the 1992 Constitution for resolution of grievances by due process of the law, especially through court processes. A resort to violence has never been a veritable option in civilized democracies. We must all appreciate that an imperfect constitutional democracy that gives the opportunity to citizens to either periodically change governments or extend their mandate is a far better option than any form of military adventurism, where our lives and opportunities will be at the whims and caprices of some lawless few, throw back to our past days of shame. However, that should not also make us feel and act complacent. Despite our relative democratic gains and electoral successes since 1992, the obvious truth is that we pale in comparison to established democracies such as the USA and the UK. We should not act like the anecdotal young man who manages to travel to the USA or the UK and returns to Ghana with a fake English accent amidst delusions of grandeur. That is why the upcoming general elections are crucial, serving another litmus test of our democratic credentials. The eyes of the African continent and the rest of the world will be firmly gazed on Ghana. They'll be looking to see if we have the mettle and desire to handle our differences and continue the path of democratic consolidation as the surest way to guarantee sustainable democracy. Let us prove that democracy has found a home in Ghana and that we should not go back. A lot more will be expected of us during our elections to elect a new president and other executives to steer the affairs of the association in the next 3 years. Whatever has been said about the conditions that must exist to ensure a peaceful, free, and transparent elections equally apply to our upcoming elections as a microcosm of what is to come on December 7 in the general election. As usual, Ghanaians will be looking to the GBA for leadership as the general election approaches. Incidentally, in a few days' time, we'll be voting in our own elections to select executives who will steer the affairs of the GBA for the next 3 years. How do we show leadership in these times? It is the noise of silence. the noise of silence, the power of our example. We can only look to the nation and acquire the legitimacy to speak truth to politicians if our own example allows us to do so. Have we conducted ourselves, our campaigns, and our collective conduct leading to our elections? How have we conducted ourselves, our campaigns, and our collective conduct leading to our elections? Simply put, have we come to equity with clean hands? It is rather unfortunate that our conduct and campaign leaves much to be desired. We hear of partisan alignments, monetary inducements, virtually posts on WhatsApp platforms, outlandish promises that cannot be possible within the provisions of the GBA Constitution. Unfortunately, some of these unsavory matters have found its way to the mass media. It should be of great concern to every well-meaning member of the GBA. The GBA is a noble association of learned persons, and there is no place in the association for such conduct, which may be permissible in the realm of partisan politics. We lose our voice if we also behave like politicians. We must understand this basic principle. The GBA leads, the GBA does not follow. The registration of voters and conduct of general elections in Ghana is constitutionally mandated in the Electoral Commission under Article 46 of the Constitution. While these parties slug it out and execute their plans and tactics at securing electoral victory, and which we believe shall be within the law, it also requires the EC not to be complacent, but to put their acts together to once again deliver on their mandate to delivering a truly credible, transparent, fair, and world-class elections. That would mean that before, during, and after the general elections, the actions and declaration by the Electoral Commission and its chairperson, head deputies, and other commissioners should inspire confidence in the electoral process, leading to an outcome that would have credibility and wide acceptance. To ensure a peaceful society as key to sustainable democracy, there is one useful tool that I believe can help us achieve with the rising political tension. It is called dialogue. Dialogue is ubiquitous all around us, at home, between siblings about who should do the chores, at the office about the manager and employee considered the best way to achieve corporate goals, and across the political plane and in governance as to what constitutes priority setters for allocation of scarce resources. It is crucial for democracy as it ensures diverse perspectives are considered in decision-making processes. By way of a necessary disclosure, I am an unashamed proponent of dialogue. My extensive lived experience from working with different persons and situations, count from home, work environment, and professional practice, has continually reinforced my belief in dialogue. Upon assumption of office as the president of the Ghana Bar Association, I set out to pursue dialogue, both internally, especially in my engagements with the other executives and council members, and in external relations with other institutions and leaders. It was in that spirit why I led delegations of the GBA to pay courtesy calls and interact with the two chiefs of the defense staff who have been in office during my tenure, Vice Admiral Seth Amwama and Lieutenant General Thomas Otumfuo, and the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Annoh-Dompreh. It is in that same spirit why, by my position as the bar president, I have rather used constitutional and statutory structures or avenues, such as the Judicial Council, General Legal Council, and occasional and audiences with the interactions and audiences with the President, the Attorney General, and persons in authority to deliberate and dialogue on matters of national interest instead of running to the media. Unfortunately, this position has led to all manner of accusations and misconceptions against me. It has increased the decibel levels of the accusation that the bar has lost its voice. That is not so. In a democracy, activism is intellectual, not militant, especially in this era of heated and oftentimes unnecessary and unhealthy discourse. As I stated earlier, my lived experiences are the basis of my fundamental conviction that dialogue is always the best solution as opposed to barnstorming and hubris. Dialogue is for the brave. It is a soothing balm and a panacea. I am the only national president whose father was once the national secretary of the Ghana Bar Association. My father, Honorable S.K. Boafo, held that position from 1982 to 1985 during the presidency of the legendary J. Kajimai. My uncle Kwame Boafo was called to the bar in 1980. As a teenager, I knew there was a yearly ritual where my father and my uncle will pack their bags to attend something called a bar conference for some days. For me, it was a happy moment, as I will escape my father's overarching and probing discipline. However, for my paternal grandmother, the late Mrs. Mary Chumesiwa Boafo, it meant something else. During that period, she'll be somber, praying in all manner of tongues and ensconced in her bedroom. For me, it was my grandmother engaging in her melodramatic theatrics. After some days, the dreaded sound of the horn of my father's Peugeot 504 will sound, heralding the arrival of my father and my uncle. My happy days will be over. My grandmother will burst in jubilation, thanking God for the arrival of his sons. It was when I became a father of adult sons that I now appreciated the agony of my grandmother. Her sons had traveled and their safety wasn't guaranteed. Unknown to me, she had feared for their lives while praying for their safe arrival. That was a lot of lawyers, Uncle Sam is here, who attended bar conferences in those days. I shudder to think of how I would feel if my two adult sons, Kwejwadade and Marcus, decide to attend an event where their safety is not guaranteed. In my junior lawyer days, my father shared an experience that has had a profound effect on me. Past President J.K. Ajimai and my father attended an IBA conference in the United States and made a presentation on the delivery of justice by the public tribunals. Naturally and unsurprisingly, as informed by the turbulent environment at that time, the presentation was critical of the public tribunal system. That presentation led to a 10-month exile for J.K. Ajimai in Nigeria and my father in the UK. These harrowing experiences all happened under a military regime. At times, the unintended consequences of unbridled militant agitations, whether in word or in deed, create conditions for military adventurers to take over. There is no way the powerful voice of the GBA should be part of such unintended consequences. As President Barack Obama stated, the fact that you have the biggest hammer does not mean every problem is a nail. There is a need for a constant reminder that our voice supersedes the voice of any professional body, and it must be handled with great care. The bar must always be a voice of reason, amidst cacophony of vile noises and irresponsible comments made in the public space. The GBA must always strive to be an island of sanity within an ocean of madness. As a gentle reminder, I charged the Executive Secretary when I took office to look for the photographs of all past presidents of the GBA to be framed and hanged at the remodeled conference room at the National Secretariat. Some people thought I was engaging in some aesthetic vainglory. Certainly not. It is intended to be a permanent reminder to the leadership of the bar of our history, purpose, and prestige. From R.S. Blade to Anthony Forson lies a history unblemished and unparalleled, and any bar leader would then understand the essence of the office he holds. I do not do this because I have been compromised and influenced by outside influences or partisan loyalties. I do so because I believe it is the right thing to do. Does that mean that the GBA must keep mute and stand idly by when grave injustices are unfolding behind our eyes? We can't do that. The GBA must go beyond public statements. The GBA should mediate, commence public interest litigation in courts of competent jurisdiction, and issue professional opinions on matters of national interest. In my humble opinion, merely issuing public statements that may only be broadcast if a media house decides to do so, and not doing anything else, is not enough. Sometimes I do so not only because I believe that it's more constructive and effective, but I also find that it's marks of betrayal and bad faith with its attendant effect of creating suspicions and mistrust in future engagements when after deliberations I come to the media. It must be put on record that twice a year, the President of the Republic grants access to the GBA to deliberate on matters affecting the nation. These discussions held behind closed doors are frank yet cordial, and the GBA hopes the next President of the Republic, irrespective of his political party, continues with such engagements. The Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford-Bagbin, has also since his election as Speaker met the leadership of the GBA every year and always invites us to send representation and comments to Parliament on very important matters of state. I want to reiterate that the GBA has never, is not, and shall never be an appendage of any political party. It has never happened, it is not happening, and we must ensure that it never happens in the future. As lawyers, it is part of our training and practice to promote dialogue. The effective use of dialogue to resolve dispute is expressed through means such as mediation and negotiation. Many a lawyer can attest to the effectiveness and utility of dialogues between parties in resolving otherwise complicated and thorny issues between parties. Yet again, dialogue in its pristine form was evident in our country in the work of the Committee of Eminent Chiefs, headed by the Asantehene, appointed to mediate and resolve the protracted Dagbon crisis dispute of many years. The eminent chiefs finally succeeded to resolve the chieftaincy dispute, mainly through dialogue, which culminated in the installation of a new Yana for Dagbon. The above examples serve as a good reason and template for dialogue to be replicated and promoted in our country, especially in an election year such as this. It is why I believe many Ghanaians find it refreshing, commendable, and positive that the National Democratic Congress at the beginning of this year returned to the Inter-Party Advisory Committee after a 3-year absence over electoral concerns following the 2020 general elections. From the grassroots through to the electoral areas and at the constituency level to the national level, people and electors should embrace and use dialogue in resolving disputes instead of taking to arms and engaging in violence. The GBA urges the Electoral Commission and our political parties to use dialogue in resolving any difference or concerns. Through that, grievances will be better addressed, valuable feedback given, and electoral processes more streamlined, which will go a long way to ensure transparency, credibility, and acceptance of electoral processes and outcomes, and by extension, deepening a sustainable democracy and peaceful coexistence in our country. To our brothers and sisters in the media space, please beware of the season. Everything should not be about and be reduced to monetization, sensationalism, and getting traffic to your stations and platforms. The Ghana Bar Association joins the calls for more responsibility, decency, restraint, and circumspection on our airways and on the other media outlets, especially in this election year. The media and the programs they produce and publish should be healthy ones that promote peaceful coexistence and offering real talk shop and marketplace of ideas, where opinions and superior alternatives are discussed and exchanged within an atmosphere of civility, rather than platforms used as outlets for ventilation of divisions, intemperate language, and beating of war drums. While the upcoming general elections and their related matters remain paramount, they should not take our minds from other equally important matters that have ripple effects on how we effectively achieve sustainable democracy and indeed affect our very existence as a people. For example, corruption is still persistent. Corruption manifests itself through embezzlement, bribery, and misappropriation and plain stealing of public funds, and even in case of conflict of interest. There appears to be unanimity on the ubiquity of corrupt practices within the public sector and among the general population that has had deleterious effects on growth and development. It is considered that corruption, irrespective of its form, shape, and color, affects the economy and further impoverishes the poor and poses an existential threat to democratic governance. Since 1992, various and successive governments have implemented initiatives and policies and programs to deal with and curb corruption in Ghana. However, the current reality is that corruption is still a very big problem that hinders Ghana's development and its quest to consolidate constitutional rule. The revelations from the sittings of Public Accounts Committee of Parliament and the Auditor General's reports are not only staggering, but make a sad commentary on the state of corruption in Ghana. In the latest Global Corruption Perception Index report released by Transparency International on 30th January 2024, Ghana scored 43 out of a clean score of 100 and ranked 70th out of 180 countries and territories included in the Corruption Perception Index (CPI). According to the said report, that marks the 4th consecutive year of stagnation in Ghana's anti-corruption efforts, as indicated by the CPI. While the GB accepts that the attribution of Ghana's stagnation on the CPI to the deteriorating justice system, which it says is reducing the accountability of public officials and therefore allowing corruption to thrive, is contestable, and may not be wholly accurate. And while the GBA acknowledges the works and efforts of state institutions such as the judiciary, the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of the Special Prosecutor in charge, to deal with corruption and corruption-related matters, nonetheless, it still paints a grim picture of the state of corruption and its fight in Ghana. In other words, we can do better and must be doing better in fighting this canker. The GBA calls for increased allocation of funds to resource the known constitutional and statutory bodies to fight corruption, and for Ghanaians to generally demonstrate more integrity with their dealings with one another. The GBA is aware that the Conduct of Public Officers Bill has taken some time to be passed by Parliament into law. There has been an inordinate delay. We believe that this bill, when passed into law, will be very key in ensuring high standards and integrity and accountability in public office, and by extension, reducing corruption-related acts, especially within the public sector. We urge the executive and the legislature to work together with more urgency in ensuring that this bill is passed into law before the expiration of the current government, in the lifetime of the current parliament, as assured by my very best friend, Mr. Alfred Tiayeboa, a Deputy Attorney General last year. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, at last year's annual General Conference of the GBA, gave a firm assurance that a law on the conduct of public officers was in the offing. 1 year down the line, we believe that it is fit and appropriate to ask for specific answers from His Excellency and his government regarding timelines and a roadmap to its actualization. There is also the issue of the unhealthy monetization of our elections and lack of transparency in the funding of political parties, especially during election years. Suffice it to say that the monetization of our politics and elections is now commonplace. The natural consequences of monetization of our politics and elections is demonstrably clear. From the appointment of sometimes unqualified and incompetent, but financially endowed persons to positions to brazen corruption through the award of inflated procurement contracts, sometimes through sole sourcing and diversion of state resources to the few at the expense of the citizenry. Monetization of elections also affects the integrity and fairness of electoral process and outcomes. That affects our quest for a truly sustainable and functioning democracy. Social justice is very dear to my heart. It has been a common theme that runs through an overwhelming majority of my public speeches as National President of the GBA. There is good reason for that. One of utmost importance and very dear to me is the funding for and allocation for the running of the public school system, SITOS, especially at the basic level and general quality of education offered within our public school system. It is certain that people who attend SITO are from poor and deprived backgrounds. The clear abandonment of the SITO schools reinforced the notion that our democratic experience under the Fourth Republic is becoming one of elite freeloading. To invest in infrastructure in grade A senior high schools, where the children of the elite make up the highest intake, to the detriment of investing in SITOs can never be justified. The chasm that exists between our public basic schools and that of our public senior high schools should be a blot on our collective conscience as a nation. While I concede that the free SHS is very good and revolutionary, however, equal attention must be given to basic education at the public schools to ensure that they are not left behind. It is sad that many adolescent and teenage girls from poor rural communities cannot attend school during the period of their menstruation. This accounts for absenteeism during the BEC. Young girls cannot suffer because of biology. School attendance cannot be determined by the vagaries of the weather. Anytime I travel across this country and I see young SITO pupils wearing tattered clothes, walking to school buildings that at best should be crowds for rearing cattle, when I see pictures of pupils sitting on the bare floor in ramshackle buildings supposed to be classrooms, when I led a delegation of the GBA to Mbepe to present educational items and saw the effects of the dam spillage on SITO education, I could not but feel sad as to how the political class and urban elite have become so insular and uncaring. These experiences led me to ask all male lawyers on Father's Day to make donations of sanitary pads to poor communities in every region, which was well received. It is my wish that it becomes part of the bar calendar even after my tenure ends. There is a need for us to take care for the vulnerable and sacrifice for the sake of our nation. We cannot live in urban areas and not think about the rural poor. Mr. President, the Ghana card should bridge this gap. It should not only be touted as a travel document that can be presented at airports. Airport travel in Ghana is largely a luxury and is an elite activity. The Ghana card could also be used to means test access to social intervention programs. We can help the poor without necessarily benefiting the rich. The free SHS program must be means tested using the data compiled by the National Identification Authority so that rich parents do not suddenly transform to become peasant farmers, as in the days of old when we had the Cocoa Board Scholarship. Students from comfortable backgrounds who attended expensive basic schools must pay fees at the senior high school level so that resources are free to fully cater for the poor and vulnerable. Mr. President, we must invest more in cyto education, eliminate schools under trees, provide sanitary paths for poor young girls, first, before spending so much on secondary education. As one comes before two, so basic education comes before secondary education. It ensures orderliness. There is also this recent revelation about the school feeding program from the Auditor General, which should serve as a source of concern for us and call for review and improvements in the operations of the program, the main beneficiaries of which are from peoples from poor backgrounds. As a nation, our security is threatened when a chasm develops between the rich and the poor, the urban dweller and the rural dweller. The DBA calls on the current government, the future ones, to implement policies that will improve and make public school education at the basic level both accessible to the poor and marginalized in our society while ensuring quality. In my opinion, the award of government scholarships should be only what it is. That is, informed by real merit, economic and financial need of beneficiaries, especially those from poor backgrounds, and relevance to specific critical areas of study and research, especially when such critical areas of study and research, particularly in science, technology and research programs that are not offered by local universities. I find it immoral and troubling that government scholarships are given or awarded to persons with political connections and who are already from privileged and rich backgrounds at the expense of brilliance. At the expense of brilliant but truly needy individuals and students. Recent reports have revealed corruption, sheer abuse, nepotism and political patronage in the award of government scholarships in this country. It is equally unacceptable for multiple government scholarships to be given to an individual, while in some cases awardees take the scholarships and never attend the courses or programs, while other Ghanaians who need a fraction of the amounts to study at local universities are denied and waste away at home with all their skills and talents. It is equally unacceptable that scholarships in foreign currencies are awarded to people to study abroad when such programs or areas of study can be pursued at our local universities. We call for a review of how government scholarships are awarded or distributed in this country. It is recommended that legislation to streamline or regulate the distribution of scholarships in the country is enacted to deal with the challenges of government scholarships. Let me also add that about the need to ensure equitable development across the country to help curb the worsening rural-urban drift. It is proper to refer to Article 36(2)(d) of the Constitution on the directive principles of state policy. It states, the state shall in particular take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include D, undertaking even and balanced development of all regions and every part of each region of Ghana, and in particular improving the conditions of life in the rural areas and generally redressing any imbalance in development between the rural and the urban areas. Accordingly, the GBA reiterates its call to the government and the state for that matter to take more effective and sustainable steps to ensure the realization of a much more fair and equitable development across the country and across the diverse sectors of the economy and sections of the populace, including more effective policy measures to tackle unemployment in all forms, especially among the youth, and bring real development to the people in the rural areas of our country, thereby dealing with the rural-urban drift. Ghana is more than Accra and Kumasi. Let us also not forget in haste that Galamsey is still with us and wreaking havoc on our forests, water bodies, and the livelihoods of thousands of families whose farmlands and crops have been affected. Galamsey or illegal mining is still a topical issue that deserves comment. The harmful effects of Galamsey are all around us. Last year, I mentioned a statement from the Pediatric Society of Ghana in which its president, Dr. John A. Appiah, has established from their studies of how the Galamsey menace is contributing to deaths among children, as well as cognitive deficits which affect their school performance and suspected to cause congenital malformations. To make matters worse, the Ghana Water Company Limited in the Central Region recently released a statement dated 31st August 2024 with the heading, Water Supply Challenges Emanating from Illegal Mining Activities, in which it announced water supply challenges within Cape Coast, Elmina, and surrounding communities, resulting from a demand-supply gap as a result of inadequate raw water received at the Sechere Water Treatment Plant as a result of Galamsey. And there are several stories like this reported in the media about the raging menace of illegal mining. On 2nd September 2024, my joint online also reported that the Ghana Water Company Ashanti Region has forewarned that residents in Obuasi and adjoining communities face a looming water shortage as illegal mining activities continue to ravage water bodies in the area due to the pollution of the Odaso River. Similar stories have been reported in other regions. There are fears that Ghana will be facing a water crisis soon require importation of drinking water. Some recent reported visit by some popular journalists in Ghana to some of our major rivers with accompanying pictorial and video evidence show that these major rivers across the country have been polluted, showing impunity and lawlessness of those actively destroying our lands and rivers and their equally shameless financiers. Despite the efforts and assurance of government to deal with the menace, there appears to be a consensus that not much has been done to effectively and roundly deal with it. To be blunt, things are getting worse. As an issue which poses an existential threat to our nation so severe that His Excellency the President put his presidency on the line, unfortunately has degenerated into a political football match between the major political parties as to who polluted the water the most. It was quite shocking and most regrettable when a member of the leadership of Parliament on the floor of Parliament stated that the minority party during this period in government polluted the waters of Ghana more than the ruling party. Such irresponsible statement by a member of Parliament is symptomatic of the malaise affecting our dear nation. Every issue must be reduced to partisan point scoring while our nations bleeds dry. It reveals an uncaring political elite only interested in holding lofty positions in government. The anecdotal evidence that Galamsey is controlled by powerful interests in Ghana cannot be ignored. The state must be honest and deal with the real powers behind this menace. We cannot deal with Galamsey by organizing public fora and making noise on our airwaves. We will be playing the ostrich without future if we pretend as we are now. The government must be honest and bold and fish out this evil access of powerful interests. engage in a wanton destruction of our environment, and deal with them decisively, irrespective of the status of the individuals involved. I also wish to urge us to be circumspect and civil in some of the things we say about judges and their judgments. Solely because you do not like a decision or judgment delivered by a judge, especially because it is politically inconvenient, does not mean the judge was wrong or that the judge had acted improperly. The court and judges give decisions based on what the law is, and not based on how a party or even some section of the people like it to be. It becomes even more troubling and embarrassing when the comments and attacks are made by lawyers, who as officers of the court must and ought to know better. It is even more scandalous and reprehensible in clear cases of lawyers belonging to political parties become disingenuous and mislead the public on decisions of court contrary to what they know the law is, just to make their political party look good. It is dangerous and confuses the unlearned public. The GBA condemns in no uncertain terms partisan attacks on the legal profession and the judiciary, and we shall resist all attempts to foment disaffection against the judiciary and the legal profession. These are very challenging times for our profession. With my close to 30 years at the bar, I can say with certainty that things have changed. The dynamics have changed. We must be a bar that meets the needs of its ever-growing membership. Suffice to say that demography at the bar has changed considerably, and change is inevitable if we must survive. I also wish to encourage us to be diligent, discharge our duties with professionalism and with integrity. Whatever has been said about integrity, especially of public officers, equally applies to us, no matter where we offer professional service and competences, whether in private practice or in public sphere. It is sometimes very difficult to hear some lawyers say or publish, very difficult to hear what some lawyers say or publish, when some lawyers say or publish bad and unpleasant things about the GBA and its executives, as well as the very profession from which they earn a living, just to defend the cause of their political parties. How many times have we not been told and cautioned not to cut our noses just to spite our fine faces? As a son of a renowned politician, I know what it takes to be a member of a political party, and I have never understood how membership of a political party will be of more importance to a lawyer than being a member of the most noble profession. That is why it is completely unacceptable for a lawyer appearing as a member of the communication team of a political party to declare on national television that the leadership of the Ghana Bar Association is the most useless in Ghana. And no lawyer from her political tradition advised her to withdraw such a statement. Such attacks do not affect the leadership in either their individual and collective capacities, but the very legal profession that gives you a name and a source of livelihood. I accept that as an association such as ours, with all its attendant divertices, we shall have differences of opinions and notions of propriety. However, I believe that we can have and adopt a much healthier way to ventilate our grievances and opinions within the bounds of respect and civility. At this conference, we'll be discussing the future of the bar, and I implore members to take time. I know that there are some beautiful Bantaman girls that can distract you, but please take time. Especially to our junior lawyers, take time for us to collectively share ideas on the way forward for the GBA. Anyone with views or grievances about the assembly and how things are done is encouraged to voice them out. That is better than letters written for publication in various media outlets that paint a bad picture of us. The issue of conference funding will be discussed. The time has come for us to be innovative yet realistic about conference funding. We must adopt international best practices in this regard. The Council will be posting for our consideration a basic conference registration fee for all members, and all other services such as meals, medical examination, evening events, dinners, etc. will be standalone items specifically costed so members can make their individual choices. The GBA must place on record the untiring efforts of Professor Raymond Akongro Atuguba Dean of the University of Ghana School of Law, and Justice Berimaya Opon-Kodie in helping develop excellent legal education. Professor Atuguba is spearheading efforts to build a magnificent building befitting our premier law school. And I charge every lawyer in Ghana to contribute to ensure a timely completion of the project. We should make it our own. Whether you are an alumnus of UGSOL or not, the inescapable fact is that the history of our profession can never be written without the invaluable contribution of the University of Ghana to the development of law in this country. Justice Berimaya Opon-Kodie, our Director of Legal Education, is at the forefront of expanding access to professional legal education and need our support, especially in finding permanent structures to house the Kumasi campus of the Ghana School of Law. I have found it necessary to quote the former President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. In one of his famous speeches, commonly known as we chose to go to the moon, stated that we chose to go to the moon. We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which is intended to win others too. This statement equally applies to Ghana and our choice of democracy and constitutional rule. After many years of military adventurism and autocratic rule, in 1992, we the people of Ghana chose the path of constitutional law and democracy under the aegis of the 1992 Constitution through a referendum. When we chose democracy and constitutional rule, it was not because it was easy and convenient, but because it is hard, because it is challenging, but one that was necessary to provide the most decent and enduring way and environment to mobilize and galvanize our collective efforts, skills, hopes, and talents into one whole and continuum that will propel us to achieve our collective aspirations of unity, socio-economic development, prosperity, national security, and equal opportunities for all. 30 years down the line, we continue our march, unwavering in our quest for sustainable democracy, even if not perfect. Democratic and constitutional rule cannot be perfect by any means. However, let us take solace from the more recent dark periods of our political history and the reasonable strides we have made. Mr. Churchill may have said that democracy is the worst form of government. However, he was quick to acknowledge that it was still superior to all forms of government ever tried by man. In Ghana, we tried military adventurism and autocratic rule. We know which is better. As a popular account proverb goes, Yasuensu, Aswansa, Yehudi Mudru. I urge all of us to play our part, to do our best no matter which trade or profession we find ourselves, with a promise and commitment to help achieve a sustainable democracy in Ghana. We should rise above partisanship. Let us show that despite our cultural, political, and religious differences, we are one people with a common destiny, a common desire, and purpose to build a democratic nation that works for all of us. Let me make a humble call to all Ghanaians of all walks of life, in whatever endeavor we find ourselves, in and across the political and social strata, to be more patriotic to the national cause. We ask Ghanaians to exhibit a renewed and stronger spirit of patriotism. We should strive to be excellent and eschew mediocrity. I believe in elitism. I believe in an elitism achieved through equal opportunity, hard work and perseverance, and not perpetuated through accident of birth. For as the greatest English judge ever, Lord Alfred Thompson Dennis once remarked, I am on the liberal or progressive side. I believe in equal opportunity, and as an old grammar school boy, I believe in independent school. I believe in an elite of excellence, certainly not an elite of the upper class. I would be against that. To my cherished members of the bar, I'm beside myself with mixed emotions that this day offers. It is a mixture of my pride as president of the bar, the gratitude of service, the humility of stewardship, and the reality of this being my last time opening address the conference as president. This day is a momentous one. Let me place on record that it has been a challenging but worthwhile and fulfilling journey so far. From the very first day of my term in office, I hit the ground running, aware of the expectations of me and the various challenges facing our profession within the context of the promises in my manifesto. By God's grace and the support with the other members of the Executive and Bar Council, as well as with your cooperation, I believe I've been able to deliver on most of the thematic areas in my manifesto. Now, I say a big thank you to my parents for not giving up on their most troublesome son, especially my father for his guidance and protection. To my permanent petitioner under the Matrimonial Causes Act, otherwise known as Mrs. Irene Boafo, for taking care of our young children because of my prolonged absence from home. To the members of the National Executive Committee for their dedication and support, and for keeping our disagreements behind closed doors, those major disagreements. For members of the General Council of the Bar for their unwavering support, especially my big brother Acheampong, who loves me so much that in his presence I feel like a pampered Bulsa royal. To our distinguished past presidents for their invaluable advice delivered to me in private. To Chief Justice Annoh-Dompreh for teaching me the value of humility whilst holding an office of prestige and honor. To Afo J.V.L. Lawson and the wonderful staff at the National Secretariat, the late Rita Davis, Eric Ambodena, and Jerry, who has a ready solution to every problem. Roxanne and my personal Yaro, the annoying but yet loyal Stephen Nyaba. If there is anything I'll miss as GBA president, it's walking to the reception of the National Secretariat and being greeted by the staff, especially Roxanne, with his daily salutation, boss, divine selection afayene, edenyamias. To Anthony Forson Jr., the IPP, for our special professional relationship that has birthed many good things for the GBA. To the ever-dependable Susan Acheampong. To my insiders, Peter Dazi, Paul Sesakwe, Chris Oseyebo, and Samuel Kofinati. To the ones who engage in treasury, I say a very big thank you, for your treasury made me strong. Just before the whole conference, I had come to my wits' end because of what I considered too much treachery, and I took an impulsive decision to resign without discussing with anyone. I drove the National Secretariat to draft my resignation letter. As usual, the reliably unreliable Stephen forgot to close the door to my office. And as I sat in my office with tears flowing down my eyes, a gentleman walked into my office. He asked me why I was crying. I told him I was leaving. He replied, "Do not think your enemies will leave you if you resign." Get your act together and complete your term. He then prayed for me. That gentleman is Kweku Deborah Boedu, and I'll forever cherish that boy. Thank you, Kweku. Finally, to all members of the bar, for giving the opportunity for a young boy from the village of Acheampong in the Joso municipality of Ghana, a village so insignificant that cartographers do not consider listening to the Ghana map, to rise to become the national president of the Ghana Bar Association. I'll forever be grateful. On 8th July 1975, William Adodankwa Akufo-Addo was enrolled on the roll of lawyers of the Republic of Ghana with bar number 1195. Subsequently, he was elected president of the Greater Accra Bar and became a member of the General Council of the Ghana Bar Association. In 1995, he filed to contest the position of national president, but as he had become a politically exposed person, he graciously withdrew his nomination at the conference which was held in Kumasi. On 7th January 2017, he was sworn into office as the 5th President of the 4th Republic and became the first member of the General Council of the Bar to be elected and sworn into the high office of President of the Republic of Ghana. The Ghana Bar Association hereby confers on His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo as the first ever recipient of the Ghana Bar Association Lifetime Award. Mr. President, since I am the only one you call me president, can you please? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to bring the curtains down on my address by thanking you all for your attendance and attention this morning and your participation at this year's conference. I wish all of us a very enjoyable and fruitful conference. Thank you very much. May God bless us all.